Imagine you're lying in a strange bed. You're inside this sprawling, completely unfamiliar mansion, and it is the dead of night.
Right, the world outside is just completely silent.
Exactly, completely silent. But threading through the darkness of the building, there's this one distinct sound. It's a raw, rhythmic sobbing.
Ugh, yeah.
It sounds like someone is weeping behind a thick stone wall.
Mm.
Like they had their hand pressed desperately over their mouth, trying to hold back an entire ocean of grief.
It's so vivid.
So if you are the one in that bed, what do? I mean, do you pull the covers up and just pretend you hear nothing? Or do you actually get up, step into a pitch black hallway, and try to find out who is suffering?
I mean, it's a profoundly unsettling premise to put yourself in. It really taps directly into this primal human conflict, right?
Right, the fight or flight thing.
Yeah, that instinct for self-preservation, clashing with that dangerous, almost gravitational pull toward the unknown, especially when the unknown involves another person's agony.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a truly gripping piece of source material today. We're pulling an excerpt from a narrative titled Chasing Death, Episode 22, The Mournful Cry.
And it is intense.
Very.
Yeah.
We're plunging straight into this highly atmospheric, intensely dark world of fallen empires, imprisoned royalty, and these sweeping, ruthless desert environments.
It's got such a late-night hushed vibe to it.
It really does. And our mission today is to guide you through this text's really visceral exploration of grief, extreme cruelty, and what it takes to survive it.
So, to set the stage, we are following a protagonist named Zayn.
Right.
He's a traveler, an herbalist from Elam, navigating this deeply hostile ancient landscape. And right from the opening pages, Zayn is confronted with the exact scenario we just described.
He hears the weeping in the dark.
He hears that weeping, and, he does not stay in bed. He actually steps out into this oppressive, thick gloom where his eyes are completely useless.
He's literally feeling his way along the cold walls.
Yeah, until he eventually finds a door and then a staircase that leads down into the subterranean depths of this mansion.
Okay, let's unpack this because the atmosphere in this opening sequence is incredibly deliberate. I mean, Zayn is tracking this sorrowful lament down one set of stairs, only to find the voice is coming from even deeper.
He has to keep going.
Right, so he finds another staircase, he keeps descending. To me, this reads like a very intentional mechanical shift in the narrative. It's like a mythological journey into the underworld.
Oh, absolutely.
Zayn is physically crossing a threshold, right?
Right.
He's leaving the normal functioning world of the living upstairs and descending into this hidden pocket of pure, concentrated human misery.
And the sensory details the text provides really reinforce that exact feeling of crossing into a different realm. Like when Zayn finally reaches the bottom, the cellar air is described as heavy with moisture.
It's damp and just nasty.
Right. But it's not just dampness. There's this fetid, stagnant stench. The text specifically compares it to the smell that lingers in homes and fields long after a devastating flood has receded.
Yeah, that specific comparison completely stopped me in my tracks because it isn't the smell of an active, ongoing disaster.
Right.
It's the smell of the rot left behind after the destructive force has already come through and just ruined everything.
The violence is already in the past tense.
Exactly.
And the physical environment of this stagnant, isolated cellar operates as a perfect mirror for the psychological entrapment of the woman inside it.
Oh, that's a great point.
She is trapped in the rotting aftermath of her own life. And when Zayn finally nudges the cellar door open, he finds this scene illuminated only by the wavering light of a tiny oil lamp in a wall niche.
It's so cinematic. Sitting on a straw mat is a middle-aged woman. Her hair is cascading over her shoulders, she's folded over onto her knees, and her hands are thrust up toward the ceiling as if she's just pleading with the heavens.
Yeah.
It's a deeply tragic, macabre tableau.
And she is so lost in her misery that she doesn't even hear the heavy door open.
Which is terrifying in itself.
Totally. When she finally senses Zayn standing there in the shadows, her first reaction reveals the horrifying reality of her existence. She doesn't ask who he is.
No, she doesn't.
She simply says, "If you have come to kill me, then I am ready. But for the sake of God, before you strike, let me see my wounded son one last time."
She just assumes he's an executioner coming to finish the job.
Yeah.
Zayn has to quickly de-escalate, obviously. He explains that he's merely a traveler, an herbalist, and he asks who she is, and she replies with this ghostly, lingering dignity. She says she is the Queen of Nineveh.
It gives you chills.
It really does.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into her specific tragedy, we need to set the board for you, the listener, because the text drops some heavy geopolitical terms here. Dralen, Nineveh, Babylonians, King Nebuchadnezzar.
It's a lot to keep straight.
It is. For those trying to visualize the map, how do these pieces actually fit together?
Well, think of this era of the ancient Near East as a brutal chessboard. Babylon, under King Nebuchadnezzar, is the rapidly expanding dominant superpower.
They're the big bads here.
Right. And Nineveh was the capital of the mighty Neo-Assyrian Empire. They were a massive rival that the Babylonians and their allies completely annihilated.
Got it.
And Elam, where Zayn is from, is an ancient civilization further out in what is now Western Iran.
So Zayn is a true outsider. He has no political dog in this fight at all.
Yeah.
He's a neutral third party walking into the aftermath of a total superpower collapse.
Precisely. And what the Queen of Nineveh describes to Zayn is not just a military defeat, it is a calculated erasure.
Yeah, the brutality is shocking.
She recounts the sacking of her city. The subjects were slaughtered in the streets. Her husband, the king of Nineveh, was decapitated, and his head was mounted on a spear.
And the kids.
The princes, her children, were literally crushed beneath the feet of elephants.
It is just overwhelming theatrical violence. But then she asks Zayn a really haunting question. If they were willing to crush children with elephants to erase the royal bloodline, why did they not kill her?
Right.
Why was she left alive in a cellar to endure this agony?
And the answer to that question reveals the true depths of the empire's malice. Because the next morning, Zayn leaves the cellar, goes back upstairs, and a guard brings him a standard traveler's breakfast of milk and honey.
Just a normal morning.
Just a normal morning. And Zayn casually asks the guard about the weeping woman below.
And the guard explains that she is deliberately given full rations. They keep her physically healthy so that she has the bodily strength to endure the crushing weight of her psychological grief for decades.
It's awful.
It really is. When Zayn calls this a great cruelty, the guard just shrugs it off. He says, "What is cruelty? If the king of Nineveh had conquered our land, would he not have done the same to our king and queen?"
What's fascinating here is the insidious nature of Nebuchadnezzar's punishment. Because, in the context of ancient total warfare, a quick death is almost a mercy.
It's a definitive end, at least.
Exactly. But Nebuchadnezzar doesn't just want to kill his enemies. He is weaponizing life itself. By forcing a mother to survive the theatrical execution of her family, and then explicitly giving her food and shelter so she cannot even succumb to starvation or exposure, he's treating her grief like an exhibit.
I have to push back on the guard's logic, though. That rhetorical deflection, the whole, well, they would have done it to us thing, is such a deeply cynical cop-out.
Oh, for sure.
It normalizes systemic cruelty. The guard isn't twirling a mustache and presenting himself as a villain. He's just treating extreme psychological torture as standard operating procedure for regime change. It is terrifyingly banal.
It is banal to the guard, but it highlights how the machinery of the empire functions. The guards are just cogs enforcing a policy of perpetual suffering.
Right.
But the darkness of that cellar and the absolute control of the Babylonian Empire is suddenly challenged by a single thread of hope.
Yes, because down in that cellar, the queen reveals a secret. During the massacre, while she was bound to a pillar and forced to watch the executions, her youngest son, Prince Marut, took a terrible blade wound to the chest.
The Babylonians just assumed the boy was dead and moved on to the next atrocity.
But later that night, a devoted slave named Kanu sneaked back into the carnage to gather the royal bodies for burial. And Kanu realized the young prince was still breathing.
It's a miracle.
Truly. So, under the cover of darkness, Kanu smuggled the desperately wounded boy out of the ruined city and hid him in a cave at the foot of the Olive Grove Hills, just outside the eastern gate.
But the queen has been in that cellar for a month.
Right. She has no idea.
She doesn't know if her son succumbed to his wounds or if he's still holding on in that cave. And this is really the pivot point of the entire narrative. Zayn, this neutral traveler from Elam, makes a monumental decision.
He does.
He takes her hand and vows that he will find that cave, use his skills as an herbalist to heal the prince, and then return to free the queen so they can be reunited.
It is an incredible moment of human connection. Zayn is stepping right into the crosshairs of an imperial blood feud.
He really is.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because I have to play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay, go for it.
If you're listening to this, put yourself in Zayn's shoes. You are in a foreign land. There are armed guards right upstairs. Making this promise isn't just brave, it borders on incredibly reckless, maybe even selfish.
Selfish? How so?
Well, the text tells us that Zayn is motivated because his own father was murdered, and he watched his mother spend her life mourning a lost son. So isn't he just projecting his own unresolved trauma onto a complete stranger?
I see what you mean.
He's risking a diplomatic incident and his own execution based on a ghost from his past.
That is a very fair critique of his tactical intelligence. Logistically, it is a suicidal mission.
Totally.
But from a thematic perspective, Zayn's psychological projection is the entire point. In an empire that operates on the complete emotional detachment we saw in The Guard, Zayn's radical empathy is the only disruption to the system.
That makes sense.
Nebuchadnezzar uses his vast power to tear families apart and weaponize their grief. Zayn is using whatever limited power he has, his knowledge of herbs, his freedom of movement, to try and stitch a broken family back together.
So it's an act of defiance.
Exactly. His empathy might be dangerous, but it is the antidote to the apathy of the Empire.
And the immediate danger of his empathy is crystal clear right away. Right after he makes this vow, a guard approaches the cellar door.
Oh, the tension in this scene.
Zayn literally has to dive under a pile of dry grass in the corner, holding his breath in the dark while the guard peers into the room. But Zayn doesn't back down. The next morning, he sets his impossible rescue mission into motion.
He lies smoothly to the guards who fed him breakfast, claiming he's heading toward the city of Babylon to seek an audience with the king.
Which they buy, right?
They do. They respect him as an herbalist, even calling him a holy one, and they let him ride out. But as soon as he gets behind a large mound of earth to break their line of sight, Zayn immediately doubles back toward the border, making a direct line for the ruins of Nineveh.
This transition from the claustrophobia of the mansion to the vastness of the outside world is jarring.
Yeah.
Zayn has to cross a grueling, punishing desert track. And the text provides a really sharp contrast here. Zayn remembers visiting Nineveh 20 years prior.
Before the destruction.
Right. He remembers it situated on the western bank of the Euphrates, just prosperous, filled with sturdy brick houses, green gardens fed by canals, and orchards overflowing with grapes and figs. It was a pinnacle of cultivation.
But the reality he's riding through now is a brutal wasteland. He's under a punishing, blinding sun, navigating around massive sand dunes that rise up like sentinels. The heat is oppressive.
So what does this all mean? The environment itself feels weaponized here?
It really does.
When I read this contrast between the lush memory of Nineveh and the harsh reality of the desert, I realize the desert isn't just a setting. It operates mechanically, exactly like the Babylonian Empire.
Oh, that's an interesting parallel.
An empire, much like a desert, doesn't actively hate you. It simply operates on a mechanism of total resource deprivation. It's designed to slowly suffocate anything that requires nurture, like an orchard, a family, or a culture.
Yeah.
Zayn has to navigate this environment very carefully because both the literal desert and the political desert will strip the flesh off your bones if you make a misstep.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that environmental hostility is the physical manifestation of Nebuchadnezzar's conquest. The empire isn't building a new world, it's reducing complex, beautiful, thriving systems into barren sand.
Wow.
It is an ecosystem of deprivation.
And this ecosystem of deprivation isn't just an abstract concept affecting cities and queens. It infects the minds of the people who inhabit it, which becomes violently clear when Zayn is forced to stop for the night.
Right. His horse is exhausted. So as evening falls, Zayn seeks refuge at a classic desert oasis. It's a cluster of date palms growing around a small spring.
Sounds peaceful enough.
You'd think so. He tethers his horse, spreads his blanket, and falls asleep under what is described as a profoundly silent, star-filled sky.
But the silence is a complete illusion, because he wakes up to the sound of voices.
Yeah, he peers through the bushes and sees 4 men on horseback arriving at the same spring.
And they are not friendly travelers.
Not at all. They're desert bandits, and they have stopped to divide up the spoils they just violently stole from a merchant caravan.
The tension escalates immediately. They're arguing fiercely over the stolen goods. 2 of them get particularly aggressive.
And then it just snaps.
Suddenly, one stands up, draws his sword, and challenges the other in the moonlight. The terms are brutally simple. They fight to the death, and the winner takes the disputed loot.
And the others just watch.
The other 2 bandits don't intervene at all. They just sit back to watch the bloodshed.
Zayn watches this duel from the shadows with a grim fascination. Because these aren't just uncoordinated thugs brawling in the dirt.
No, not at all.
The text makes a specific point to note that they are fighting with the precision and footwork of elite, trained soldiers.
And watching this, the parallel is unavoidable.
Yeah.
These bandits are a perfect microcosm of the warring empires.
Yes.
Just like King Nebuchadnezzar squanders thousands of human lives for territory and dominance, these highly trained men are squandering their elite martial skills and their lives on petty, fatal greed over a few bags of stolen goods.
This raises an important question about the inherent value of life in a world that has been hollowed out by endless war. Because the duel doesn't conclude with a brilliant, heroic, tactical maneuver.
It's actually kind of pathetic.
It is. The bandit who is losing ground, who's being forced back into the shadows, simply catches his heel on a buried stone in the sand. He trips.
It's a clumsy mistake.
And without a microsecond of hesitation or mercy, the other man drives his sword deep into his opponent's stomach.
The text describes a blood-curdling scream tearing through the night air. The man writhes on the sand for a few moments and then just lies still.
And the victor.
He exhibits zero remorse. He coldly wipes his bloody blade clean, grabs the dead man's share of the loot, gets on his horse, and rides off into the dark.
Just like that.
The other two bandits simply follow him. It is incredibly unceremonious.
It highlights a chilling apathy that mirrors the guard from earlier that morning. Consider the moral contrast the narrative has set up in a single day.
It's a stark difference.
Zayn, a stranger from Elam, is risking his own execution, defying a superpower, and enduring a grueling desert crossing, all to save a single wounded boy he has never met.
Yeah.
He values a single life so highly that he will risk everything to preserve it. Meanwhile, mere feet away from where he is sleeping, men who ride together will casually slaughter one another over stolen trinkets and step over the corpse without a second thought.
To the bandits and to the Empire, human life is incredibly cheap. It is worth less than whatever was inside those caravan bags. And the excerpt leaves us with this haunting, cinematic image.
It's so atmospheric.
Zayn waits in the bushes until the sound of the bandits' horses fades away into the desert night. Then he steps out. The dead man is lying abandoned on the cold sand. And above him, the moon continues its slow, silent passage across the sky.
Nature doesn't care.
Exactly. The universe is entirely indifferent to the violence that just occurred.
The absolute indifference of nature paired with the calculated cruelty of men. It perfectly encapsulates the overwhelming, suffocating odds stacked against Zayn's mission of healing.
It really is a staggering piece of world building. Let's bring all these threads together for you. We have tracked Zayn's descent into the physical and psychological underworld of that mansion cellar, where he discovered the shattered queen of Nineveh.
We examine the horrifying mechanics of an empire that weaponizes grief to erase a culture.
We debated Zayn's risky, empathy-driven vow to find her wounded son. And the moment he steps into the desert to execute this mission, he is confronted by a microcosm of that exact same systemic violence at the oasis.
The text brilliantly links the macro-level cruelty of kings with the micro-level brutality of thieves.
It does.
The entire landscape is thoroughly saturated in a deep disregard for life.
Which leaves us with a truly provocative thought to mull over as we close out today's discussion.
What's that?
When you look at Zayn, existing in a world where cruelty is the systemic norm, where violence is as natural and pervasive as the wind blowing over the sand dunes, does an isolated, dangerous act of compassion make you a fool? Or, in an ecosystem designed to deprive us of our humanity, is an act of irrational empathy the only meaningful rebellion we have left?
It is a profound question to walk away with. When kindness offers zero strategic advantage and only guarantees personal risk, its moral value becomes absolute.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into chasing death. We hope you keep exploring the shadows and the light of the stories around you, looking past what the characters are doing to understand the mechanisms of why they're doing it.
Keep looking deeper.
And the next time you wake up in the dead of night and you hear something unsettling on the other side of the wall, maybe you will think twice before pulling the covers up.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.